Hi, I'm Natalie. It was a chilly Thursday morning, the kind that hinted at frost but still clung to the last warm whispers of fall. I had just finished my rounds at the hospital, where small faces lit up despite their struggles. A daily reminder of why I poured my heart into pediatrics. Chris and I were approaching our 7th anniversary, and the excitement was palpable. We planned every detail of our trip to Paris. It's going to be perfect, Natalie, just you and me, the Eiffel Tower. Fresh croissants every morning, Chris would say, his eyes sparkling with the same anticipation that filled mine. Our marriage, a blend of love and friendship, felt unshakable, a fortress against life's challenges. We'd weathered so much together, but this trip felt like the fresh breath of joy we both needed. On the eve of our departure, I came home buzzing with the thrill of adventure, only to find Chris sitting in the living room, his expression somber. I knew that look. It usually meant trouble at work. Dropping my bag, I steeled myself for whatever minor hiccup might delay our evening plans. But Paris was just a day away. What could possibly go wrong? Natalie, I have to tell you something, Chris began, hesitating as he searched for the right words. There's been an emergency at work. A big project came up, and they need me. I can't go to Paris. The room spun slightly as his words settled in. What do you mean? We've planned this for months. Can't someone else handle it? I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. They need me, Natalie. I tried to get out of it, but there's no one else who can handle this account. I'm really sorry. The sincerity in his voice calmed my rising panic, but disappointment clawed at my chest. I sighed, letting out a long, defeated exhale. Okay, I understand. Work is important, I said, forcing a weak but supportive smile. After all, what was a dream trip compared to real-life responsibilities? So, what will you do? Chris asked, guilt shadowing his features. Oh, I guess I'll catch up on some reading, maybe have a spa day. Nothing special, I replied, shrugging away the heartbreak. The house suddenly felt larger, emptier without the promise of Paris. That week, as I moved through my routines, work, home, sleep, the disappointment lingered like a bitter aftertaste. But life as a pediatrician doesn't pause for broken plans. I comforted, healed, and laughed with my young patients, finding solace in their resilience. 3 days into what should have been our romantic getaway, I lounged at home, trying to distract myself with work and tending to the little garden we'd started together. But the silence was a constant reminder of the trip we should have been on. The trip to Paris that we had planned for our 7th anniversary. As the days passed, the solitude became overwhelming. I found myself checking my phone more often than usual, hoping for a message from Chris or at least some sign that he was thinking of me. That's when I saw it, a picture on Instagram, not from Chris's account but in my feed. There he was smiling in front of the Eiffel Tower, and next to him was Melissa, his attractive coworker. They looked a little too cozy, with the iconic tower lighting up the Paris night behind them. My heart sank, and questions raced through my mind. Was this the unavoidable work emergency he had mentioned? How could he lie so effortlessly? I couldn't let it go. I needed answers. Over the next few days, I started digging deeper. I went through old credit card statements, emails, and even his laptop, which he conveniently left at home. The patterns began to emerge, trips I hadn't known about, expenses for 2 at romantic resorts, and a trail of receipts that painted a story very different from the one Chris had been telling me. I kept my findings to myself, maintaining a facade of normalcy each evening. When Chris called, I answered with a forced smile, my voice steady, hiding the storm of betrayal and anger brewing inside. Everything's fine here, I'd assure him, while my evenings were spent compiling evidence, documenting every lie, every secret rendezvous. The more I uncovered, the clearer my next steps became. I wasn't just going to confront Chris. I was going to make sure he couldn't talk his way out of this. I contacted a lawyer, gathered all the evidence I could, and prepared for the day he would return. It was meticulous and draining but necessary. As each piece of evidence stacked up, so did my resolve. I wasn't just a scorned wife, I was a woman reclaiming her life and dignity. Despite the chaos within, I kept up appearances. My days at the clinic were as productive as ever, my interactions with patients warm and attentive. No one could tell that every night I was piecing together the betrayal of the man I had once loved and trusted. As the day of Chris' return drew near, I felt a mix of dread and anticipation. I had everything laid out, bank statements, photographs, correspondence. It was all there, ready to shatter the illusion of our perfect life together. But for now, I had to wait, letting him believe he had fooled me. The real confrontation was just days away, and I was ready to face it head-on. Chris walked through the door with his usual cheer, unaware of the storm waiting for him. "Hey, love," he exclaimed, dropping his bags and coming in for a hug. I mustered a smile, stepping into his embrace while my mind replayed every lie I had uncovered. "How was your trip?" I asked, keeping my voice even. Chris raved about his meetings, the success of his urgent business dealings, and how he wished I could have been there with him. I nodded along, the perfect picture of the doting wife, while inside the plans for the evening's revelation unfolded. Over the next couple of days, I continued to play the part. We fell back into our routine, or at least Chris thought we did. I listened to his stories, laughed at his jokes, and made sure not to let any suspicion show. All the while, the envelope containing his undoing sat hidden in the drawer of my nightstand. Finally, the night of our rescheduled anniversary dinner arrived. Chris dressed up, clueless that tonight would change everything. As he adjusted his tie, I caught a glimpse of the man I had married, and for a moment, my heart ached for what could have been. But the sting of betrayal was stronger, and it steeled me for what was to come. We chose a quiet, elegant restaurant, a place that had been special in the early days of our marriage. As we sat down, the weight of the envelope in my purse seemed to grow heavier. Dinner passed with idle chatter, and with each passing minute, the tension within me mounted. Finally, as dessert was served, I reached into my purse. "I got you something," I said, my voice betraying none of my nervousness. I handed him the envelope, decorated with a simple ribbon. Chris smiled, his eyes lighting up with anticipation. He probably thought it was a token of my love, perhaps a new beginning for what he believed was still a blissful marriage. His hands trembled slightly as he untied the ribbon and pulled out the contents. The smile faded from his face as he sifted through the divorce papers, the photos, the receipts, each piece a testament to his deceit. What is this?" His voice was a mix of confusion and dawning horror. "Consider it a parting gift," I said, my voice calm and collected. "Proof of your trips, your lies, everything." Chris looked up from the papers, his face pale, eyes searching mine for an explanation, perhaps even for mercy. "Natalie, there's nothing to discuss, Chris. You made your choices, and now I've made mine." My tone was firm, leaving no room for the pleas or excuses that began to tumble from his lips as he struggled to compose himself, trying to piece together a response. I stood up, pushing in my chair with a steady hand. "Enjoy the rest of your evening." Natalie's decision to gather evidence and confront Chris publicly was a calculated and deliberate move, one that gave her control over the narrative and ensured that she could present the truth in a way that left no room for manipulation or denial. Instead of addressing it immediately, she chose to be meticulous, giving herself time to process the betrayal and prepare for the legal and emotional challenges ahead. This approach allowed her to protect her interests during the divorce proceedings and ensured that Chris couldn't talk his way out of the situation. Her method of handling the betrayal might seem cold or harsh to some, but it also reflects the depth of her hurt and the desire to reclaim her dignity. By waiting until Chris' return and confronting him with undeniable evidence, she made sure he faced the consequences of his actions head-on, leaving him no opportunity to twist the truth. It was her way of taking back the power that had been stripped away by his lies. Some might argue that a more private confrontation could have been less painful for both parties. Addressing it immediately could have led to a more open and honest conversation, but given the extent of the deceit and the double life Chris was leading, it's understandable that Natalie felt the need to approach it the way she did. The public nature of the confrontation added a level of accountability, making it clear that she was done accepting lies and ready to move forward on her own terms. Whether her approach was justified depends on perspective. In situations involving betrayal, there is no universal right way to react. Each person must navigate their emotions and choices based on what feels right for them. For Natalie, taking control of the narrative, securing her future, and embracing her independence were priorities, and she pursued them with unwavering resolve. What are your thoughts? Would you have taken a similar approach, or do you think there could have been a gentler way to handle the situation? Share your opinions in the comments below, and if this story resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more thought-provoking content.